Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from in the world today. We're joining you from Toronto, Ontario, Canada. We are Voice of Men 360. I'm RJ Horner, and I'm your host here for Open Up. I'm also the vice president here at Voice of Men 360, and I'm the host and facilitator of a community called Live and Love Life. And I'm proud to bring you today's show, courtesy of Voice of Men 360, where we are again, we are that voice. We are representing men across the globe. We also represent International Men's Day, and they've created a mission for us to help support our boys becoming men in the future. It's certainly a valid mission for us to follow, and we've supported it here with Voice of Men 360, who of course is a not-for-profit organization based in Toronto, Canada. And he has grown in the last 21 years to be supported in over 90 countries around the world. And they have 6 pillars of International Men's Day that we can follow. You can find those at our website. We are Voice of Men 360, and our website, voiceofmen360.org. You can email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. And we have our Facebook group and our YouTube channel of the same names, voiceofmen360.org. We are hosting a show today called Open Up. And we are discussing matters of growing up, life challenges, life issues, usually specifically dealing with men, but we are talking about health and mental health and growing up to be strong men from the difficulty of becoming boys. Today, my guest is a social worker, and she's dealt with a lot in the area of mental health and especially in the area of depression and anxiety, worked closely in the hospitals. She has a bachelor's of arts from the University of New Brunswick and a bachelor's of social work from Carleton University and a master of social work from McGill. Please welcome today Tolu Adeosun. Please, thank you for joining us on our show, and please tell us a little bit about yourself before we go on this morning.
RJ, I do appreciate this opportunity to be here and to share with you and everybody else a bit of my life journey and my work. So, sorry, you asked me to tell you more about myself, correct?
Please tell us a little bit more about yourself before, so the people can get to know you a little.
Okay, thank you. So I am a wife. I've been married for almost 7 years. I'm also a mother of 2 children. I have a 5-year-old and almost 2-year-old. And like you mentioned, I do have a bachelor's of arts degree from New Brunswick. So I actually grew up in New Brunswick. My parents actually still reside there. I went to elementary school, high school, and university in New Brunswick. And then I moved to Ottawa, Ontario, where I went to Carleton to do my bachelor's of social work. I've always felt this need and urge to help people. I didn't just want to sit on the couch or just listen. I wanted to be able to physically get up and do something for people. So this is why I chose social work. I love what I did. I used to work in group homes. So I actually used to do more of the PSW kind of work with people with developmental disabilities. And then, I decided to go and do my master's, and I chose to focus my master's placement on international development. So I had the opportunity to go to my country of birth, which is Nigeria, and I had a chance to work with the UN, particularly UNICEF, and to work with children and on malnutrition needs and everything. And then I came back to Canada and I started to look for jobs in the social work field. So I did a bit of more group home work because it took a while to kind of penetrate the market in Toronto. And then I ended up, now I'm working in the hospitals, and I do have my own social work practice where I do counseling as well.
And so we're trying to get the life journey and what it is growing up to. we like to relate it to men and boys, but tell
Mhm.
me what your life was like growing up, childhood, through,
Mhm.
through school. Tell me what life was like back then for you.
Well, so I actually come from a family of 7 children. So I'm the second oldest. So I find like a lot of other cultures, the pressure is on to succeed, to excel. There's a lot of pressure on you as one of the eldest children, and so your younger siblings are looking up to you. You're not supposed to screw up. You're always supposed to be perfect. So that pressure was hard growing up. I have an older sister who is a high achiever as well. So she's actually a professor. And so, you always look up to her and go, okay, she has a PhD. Like, I need to continue to do well too. I need to be successful as well. So that pressure was there. It's just the pressure that comes on from being from an African family. But like I said, I think a lot of other cultures can relate. And then you have your younger siblings looking up to you and they're seeing what you're doing and how you're, behaving, how you're excelling or not excelling. So I found that was probably one of the more challenging things growing up for me.
And so you mentioned you have a sister, but do you have brothers?
I do. I have 2 brothers. So they're
How did
actually
you get along with them? How was their relationship with you growing up?
my 2 brothers, one of them is he was into basketball and everything, and we all used to be into basketball too. I used to play basketball. So a lot of the conversations we had while he was growing up, because he's actually significantly younger than me by like 9 years. And so a lot of the conversations is about basketball this, basketball that. And then my other brother, who's younger than him, he actually has a developmental disability. So I think that's also what kind of maybe inspired me more to work with people with developmental disability, because of my brother. I found actually he was the one that kind of made our family more loving. He made us we were more huggy because of him. He just has this love about him, and he always wants everybody to be together and get along. And so that's actually how my brothers influenced me.
I like that. I like that you talked about where your influence comes from, because
Mhm.
getting into the careers, that's what we talk about. What
Mhm.
influences people down this path? And
Mhm.
I can see you have a direct relation there at home that
Mhm.
really probably inspired your journey to become a social worker. And it's
Yeah.
all about giving back, right? So tell me some of the influences that you've been able to offer to our youth or boys, or
Okay.
again through your social service work, or
Mhm.
through counseling, whatever
Mhm.
path you've been able to influence, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so I am a Christian. So in the church, I've worked with a lot of youth, actually. Youth as a youth leader, trying to just help them spiritually, but career-wise as well, and just being available to them for if they need someone to lean on. I always try to be someone that people can depend on. I always try to make myself available. I do, even with my friends, like whether they're struggling with their marriages or just with their children. I try to make sure I'm always there, just providing as much resources as possible. That's just the type of person I've been. I feel like I'm a social worker through and through. And so anytime I see an opportunity to help people, I can't even help myself. Sometimes it's a point where it's to my detriment, but I love helping people. So anytime there's a chance and an opportunity, I do so.
That's awesome. You know what? I can say I'm not as certified as you. You know what I mean? You've got
Mhm.
definitely an educational background. You've got your qualifications. But I come from the same area of attitude or responsibility. I just
Mhm.
love helping people. I love giving back, kind of why I become
Mhm.
involved with this organization. And I
Mhm.
love sharing stories like yours, getting people to realize that we all go through a journey. We're all different. We're all trying to live the same life, the same
Mhm.
type of life, but we're going through a journey.
Yes,
And so
correct.
thank you. I love that you're opening up, and that's what we ask here
Mhm.
today. But tell me, you mentioned, okay, how do we get to this delicately? You live in the East Coast.
Yeah.
How was, I mean, let's talk, if you wouldn't mind, race. Would
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
describe how it was like for you out there? Again, that's a topic that
Mhm.
people
Mhm.
have to open up about, right? So
Yeah.
if you're able to do so, would you talk about what it's like growing up in the East Coast as a Black African culture people?
So yeah, I actually forgot to mention we did briefly live in Nova Scotia as well, and so we were used to being, first of all, a large family. We would go out in public, and this is in Nova Scotia. My parents would have us in the car. This is before my youngest three siblings were born, and they would be counting us and be like 1, 2, 3. Oh, wait, they moved. So people would always look at our family and count us because we were this large family. And then on top of that, we were Black, and so we clearly stuck out. We were very noticeable. My dad was actually a pastor. And so he came to Canada before us, and then he was a pastor in the United Church. And so, also then, the people in the church we were the only Black people, one of the very few Black pastors in, whether it was Nova Scotia or New Brunswick. And so that was just, we always had to be perfect. We always had to, regardless of what people would say to us or do to us, we had to always rise above that. So like that Michelle Obama thing, when they go low, you go high, was something that we got accustomed to early on in life. My mom was actually a trained teacher in Nigeria, and then she also retrained in Canada, but she never actually got a full-time teaching job. So that was, that for me is what I call systemic racism, knowing that my mom was very qualified, certified, and she never got a full-time teaching job in New Brunswick. So that was hard. That was hard because we lived on my dad's salary. So from a young age, I started to make money. Like by the age of 10, I was babysitting, starting to make money because, just wanted to be able to purchase some things for myself and take some pressure off my parents.
Oh, wonderful. No, wonderful. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
You know what, again, you came from a religious family. So do people maybe look at you a little bit differently, as in, at least they're respectful. They're, you know what I mean? We don't have to worry about them as criminals. We don't, they're not troublesome. Did you get that attitude or?
I would say probably my brother probably got more of that than I did. I know that like he's talked about stories where, he was a basketball player, like just like us, but his was, by the time he played basketball, we were living in Fredericton, New Brunswick, and there was things he was turned up for, or people would call him the N-word, and like, it was hard for him to not react. And I think one time he did punch his actually the coach's son, because he called him that, and the coach was really upset with him. But then my dad's like, well, did you know what he called my son? Like, what did you do about that? Like, where's the consequences to your son? So those are, and then I'm always constantly afraid for, my brother, my husband. My brother now lives in Toronto. And he lives downtown Toronto. So you're constantly afraid that, he's a bigger Black guy, he's muscular, and he's, good looking, but what if people think he's up to no good? What if people think he's a troublemaker? And so you're like, what's going to happen to my brother? And even my husband, he's as gentle as my husband can be. You're always worried that people are going to think that, he's a criminal. He's up to no good. So those are the constant worries. And I have a young son, and you just, you know how the world looks at us. And so even though we may be as religious as we can be, we pray to God, we don't swear, we talk politely, but it's a constant worry that someone could just look at us the wrong way or misjudge us or think that we're up to no good.
Honestly. And you know what? Thank you for that, because you know what? I hope one day it ends. Really, one day we'll get beyond this, but it's a fact that, again, I could never know the plight. You know what I mean? I could never truly know. But I love that people, if I can get people talking about it, it's a way to maybe, you know what? Oh my God, I can't believe I've done that. I've said that, or I've, affected somebody in that way. So that's why I kind of was able to hopefully talk about that with you. So I love when people are able to open up. But you mentioned your father, again, a pastor. So a nice guy. What kind of influence would you say he had on you, yourself and your brothers, if you wouldn't mind?
Oh, my dad, honestly, my parents, I witnessed people backstab them. 1 minute they're praising them, but the next minute they're trying to get rid of them. And my parents were always rising above. Like they always, they just never stopped caring. They never stopped caring for people, and they never let that interfere with their calling, their mission in life. I seen my parents go the extra mile for people, and that's really, I would watch and listen and hear it. And that's just like, honestly, it's what drives me too. Like just watching the way my dad and my mom pastored and cared for people. So definitely it's also an influence in my life. And I can see my brothers are super caring. My youngest two, well, the only two brothers I have, sorry. Even though my youngest brother does have a developmental disability, but he's very caring. He loves my son, loves my daughter. He's always asking after them, just very caring, very concerning. And my other brother, Emmanuel, that's his name, the one that lives in Toronto, once again, super sweet, super soft, like very in tune with his emotions and senses, and just amazing brothers, honestly, because I believe of the influence that my dad, my mom, over their lives and our lives.
Exactly. And you know what? You had great influences growing up. That obviously makes a difference in the person you are to become. And so imagine, I mean, you don't have to imagine. I'm sure you've experienced many times where you've seen people out there who don't have that influence at home, or they don't have that through school, or a coach or a mentor. That, how do you think they could manage? What do you think could help get them through another day or another?
Well, I think the key is to understand that you're not alone. You're not struggling by yourself. There are other people feeling and going through the same thing. There are other boys that didn't grow up with father, or a father, maybe they're not allowed to show their emotions. But the thing is, there are people that want to help you. There are organizations that exist that are here to support, just like Voice of Men 360 and other organizations in the Toronto area, around the world, that are here to get rid of what we call toxic masculinity, to help you understand that you are allowed to cry. When we hear a lot, boys don't cry, but you are allowed. I saw my dad, and even to this date, my dad cries a lot. And that allowed me to realize it's okay. My dad was the more emotional one out of my mom and dad. He's the emotional one. And so cry. If something's bothering you, something hurts, cry. And know that there's nothing wrong with that. But what do you do afterwards? You get up and you start to do something. I'm not talking about taking vengeance, but I'm talking about, you act, right? You go and seek help. You go and talk to people. You open up to people. That's what this is about, opening up. So feel your emotions. I say be in your emotions. There's the popular saying is in your feelings. Be in your feelings, but it's the way you end up acting and reacting after that is what matters.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, again, you know what? Again, I've been there. I understand that totally, because I had to pick myself up. I was in that. I'm an emotional person, and for a long time, I was told you gotta keep it in check. You're not allowed to cry. But you know what? That just builds up like a pressure tank. It just builds up pressure, and eventually that tank needs release. And if it doesn't get the release it needs, it's going to explode. So I think we all need that release. Myself, I needed counseling. I needed to open up to somebody, and that's you're exactly right. This show is a platform to do it, but there are other platforms out there that can help. You know what? Remember, if you can, International Men's Day. Remember, if you can, Voice of Men 360. You know what? There are so many organizations. Do you know any other organizations out there that really help people get a grips on themselves that they should find if they're struggling?
Well, there are quite a few. Off the top of my head, I think it's called Metro Youth, or it's in Toronto. There's a lot. There's like all those community health centers, the Taboo, like there's in Scarborough, there is there's one like there, but you just type in community health centers, you type in youth organizations, like there's so many. I'm sorry, off the top of my head I can't think.
That's okay.
I just work for one called Griffin Center, actually. And so they deal with, so now I think it's called Luminous. So they've actually partnered with a lot of other organizations to become a larger organization, and they help people with all sorts of problems, whether you're a caregiver with children with developmental disabilities or adults with developmental disabilities, or whether you're a youth struggling with mental health needs, sexuality. These organizations are out there. Honestly, I always tell people, Google, go on Google. You will find what you are looking for.
And the more specific you are, the more better chance you're getting directed to the ideal person or the ideal help you need. But that's what I wanted. It's just anything, advice? Where do people turn when they're struggling like that, or when they need help? You know what? They can't always get to a hospital. They can't always get to a doctor or somebody to talk to. But
you can also, sorry, while you're saying it, you can
Oh.
also call crisis lines. So there's distress Durham, Toronto. I don't remember what the Toronto line is called, but once again, type in Google crisis lines in your area and they will pop up and you can call. There's always someone available to speak with you.
And that's why, you know what, we don't always have access to somebody with your skills or your background. So, you know what, when we have an opportunity, where do we turn? How do we get people the help they need? So thank you for your guidance in that area. If you wouldn't mind just going through, maybe is there a time or two that you've just, where you've helped, where you've made that change in people's lives that have really made the difference in them?
Well, so, I mean, these are going to be more general examples, but I have had people come into my private practice where they were really just struggling. I had one lady having some workplace issues, bullying and everything, harassment. So she went off work, and she should have been probably a manager at that point, but she wasn't near that goal. And so she was trying to decide if she wanted to get a new job or what she wanted to do, or should she go back to work and just continue to suck it up. And so we talked through a lot of things. She was putting her resumes out there. And I said, why don't you apply for positions for where you really want to be, where you want to go, instead of where you're at right now, instead of the same level? Why don't you try to aim higher? And so she actually listened and she started to apply for manager positions, and she did get one. And I remember receiving a text from her. She said, thank you so much, because you encouraged me, you supported me, you showed me I was very capable. She's like, I applied for this manager position and I got the job. So those are the kind of things. Is I see that, I listen to people and I hear their struggles and I understand where they're coming from. And I want to show them that this is what I see about you. This is who you are. Right. So I want you to see that about yourself. And then I want you now to go forth and do more for yourself and for others. And so that's an example. And I've worked with CEOs, directors of organizations, large organizations, where they're just struggling maybe with their mental health, or they're struggling with maybe their subordinates or their bosses, and just trying to show them, okay, we'll approach it from this way, look at it from this way. I do a lot of helping people to think from another perspective and to think about where maybe this person is coming from or why maybe they're triggered. So a lot of the work I do is to focus on what is happening, why did this happen, and what was your response, and why do you think this way, or why do you think this person did that? And I find if we go around life thinking this way, we may react less and be more patient with people.
Absolutely. And thank you. You know what, again, so you said you work in corporate. I mean, if you wouldn't mind, how does it affect them? You know what I mean? How do they feel being responsible? Especially, have you spoken to anybody in the last several months? Because I mean, we're going through a lot, and these people are responsible for how many lives, jobs. If you wouldn't mind just speaking to that for a moment.
Yeah. So, there's one particular person I have in mind who she just actually became like a manager right before the pandemic started. And so she, we spoke about how she was transitioning the people to online, working from home, how she was trying to do more team building activities. So just trying to, keep the employees engaged, right? Keep them invested, to continue to have buy-in, even though they're all working remotely, connecting one-on-one, just making sure everybody's doing okay mental health wise, letting them know that, they do have their EAP providers, that they can reach out for help if they're struggling.
And EAP, of course, means Employee Assistance Program. Yes. And you know what, people, if they don't know it's out there, please reach out to HR and find out if it's an option, because they are, counselors available quite often to you just by making a phone call.
Exactly.
So I'm glad you brought those words up, because it's a resource that's available. So yes. You have a hobby of being a singer-songwriter on the side. Does that tie into your job? Is that something you do just for fun? Tell me about that.
You know what? I've always loved music. I love music. I always have a song stuck in my head. Even as we're talking, I have a song in my head, which is hard because then it sometimes makes it hard to focus and concentrate, because you want to sing, but you got to talk. So I am a lover of music. At work, I went back to work from a mat leave in March. And so the pandemic started 2 weeks later for us. We started to have to wear masks. My children had to go. My husband was home, but then eventually we put them in emergency daycare in Toronto. There was just so much going on, a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. The good thing is the community was responding and they were, supporting us frontliners. And so out of that birth, one of my colleagues was like, oh, they didn't know I was into singing because I just started working with that team. But she came up to me, she's like, oh, I saw this hospital choir thing. What do you think? I'm like, oh, yes. I'm like, how did you know I love music? So we birthed our own choir from that. And then we did a video, like within the next day, we sang Lean On Me, and we put that video out to thank the community for its support. And they shared it with the hospital. And then we did I wrote one song to Stand By Me. So it was thank you for your support. We thought we should thank the community again. And then, and I always had buy-in, the team I worked with was fantastic. And they always liked my ideas I came up with. And then we ended up doing, what do you call it? A flash mob. I don't know if you're familiar with what a flash mob is.
Sure, but tell us a little about it. Go ahead.
So flash mob is where you do a surprise performance. So we planned to sing You Raise Me Up. And then we ended up, we popped up. Nobody knew we were coming. Nobody knew. This is one of the events where they were giving food from MLSC. And so we just popped up and started to sing You Raise Me Up. And we had, harmonies, everything. It was very beautiful. And and then they actually asked us to perform at the next food donation event. And so we sang 3 songs. So I was the choir leader. I came up with the ideas, and sometimes I was the one who came up with the songs, and I would have buy-in, and some people would help me find the harmonies. I had to learn it myself so I could teach it. And that's how it, and then, then I teamed up with a nurse who ended up, he makes music, beats, we call it beats, and so he shared with me 3 tracks, and then I wrote songs to all 3, and one of them was about the coronavirus, We Will Win This Fight. And now I actually have 4 remixes of it, and they're for sale. And a portion of the proceeds goes to the UN to fight the coronavirus.
Awesome. Very nice. Very nice. Oh, you know what? And I'm glad your workers supported you, because it's nice to have a workplace where singing and music is part of the environment, helps you relax, helps you keep calm. So
I really did.
You had that kind of support at work. And I think I seen that Lean On Me with everybody doing like it was a virtual presentation, wasn't it?
We did. No, the one we did was we were singing in a circle, and we were all wearing our masks, and so it's on my YouTube channel, Tolu. So I'm going to put a little plug in for myself.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And so I do have actually all the other links to the other versions of the song as well.
Absolutely. People need that. So thank you for doing that, for yourself and for others, man. What a joy. What a blessing.
Yeah, it's a stress reliever, right? So we always talk about finding ways to relieve your stress, to the pressure, the depression, the anxiety, finds an outlet. And for us, singing was an outlet, and it worked, and it made us feel good. We had something to look forward to. We would always practice at lunchtime. So it just made us feel good.
I love that you just told people find an outlet. Singing is yours, but whatever it is out there, find an outlet, because you know what? There's the way to just let that steam out, let the pressure off, and go on and move it forward and have a good time. Pick yourself up, like you said earlier. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
It's been a blessing to have Tolu Adeosun. Did I get it even close?
You know what? I don't even say it right. Adeosun.
Adeosun. Sorry.
Yes.
Try.
It's my husband's last name. I'm still learning.
Thank you for joining us, Tolu.
Thank you.
I'm glad you spent the time with us today. Again, we are Voice of Men 360. We are a voice of men around the globe. You can find us I'm just going to end off the show here now. So you can find us at www.voiceofmen360.org. And we have an art competition going on right now as well, where we want you to share your thoughts on Voice of Men, your thoughts on International Men's Day, through your art, whether that be a written piece, a short story, an article, a poem, you want to do a drawing or a photograph, a stage presentation, however you see your art related to International Men's Day, you can get those submissions into us until January 25th. Again, email us at info@voiceofmen360.org. We have been able to get some sponsorship to be able to offer you some prizes. I do not have our sponsors, but you can find that again at our website, www.voiceofmen360.org. And please follow us on YouTube and our Facebook group of the same name, voiceofmen360.org. Once again, I'm RJ Horner, your host and facilitator here for Voice of Men 360, and this is Open Up. Until next time, better days ahead.